Yesterday I received an email from a lady in UAE, and she said she had lost her son in a car accident. Actually, there were 3 boys who passed away in that car accident. And so she had been searching for answers on the internet, specifically for why did this happen, and more importantly, her suffering was that if I had been more cautious and I had told my son, please wear a seatbelt, this would not have happened. And then she came across the videos of my spiritual teacher Ramesh Balsekar, and then subsequently mine. And she said, it is this teaching which has given me some solace. But yet, if I had been more persistent with my son and ensured he wore his seat belt, I feel this would not have happened. See, nobody can know the pain of a parent who has lost their child. That is beyond doubt. But if we just very objectively look at the situation, we can see how the sense of doership is so ingrained in us that if I had done this, this would not happen. If I had not done that, therefore that happened. It's all either I did something or I didn't do something. I did this, I didn't do that. I did this, I didn't do that. And our whole life is between this doing this and not doing that. Now, if she was to ask herself, what did I do from his birth till that moment that kept him alive? What would be the answer? What did I do from the time he was born till he passed away that kept him alive?
Nothing.
Isn't it? God can take anyone's life away at any point, right? Secondly, look at the factors which are behind each moment in your life, and let's take the extreme case of the factors behind a person's passing in this fashion. Did you build the road on which the car was? Who invented the seat belt? Who decided your son should leave at a particular time from a particular place and be at that very spot where the incident happened? And who decided that the oncoming car leaves at that particular time and is at that same spot where the incident happened? Who decided all that? Did you decide all that? Because if the ego is taking ownership of the fact that because I didn't tell him this happened, then what about all these factors which have come together to make the incident happen? So this is an extreme case, but we will see it in our own lives, that every minute of the day is about doership. I should not have thought that bad thought. I should not think this about others. I should think that about others. Is all doership. Now, what happens when there is a full understanding that one does not have control over the event? the suffering in terms of grief does not go away, but the suffering which is layered over the original suffering disappears. So it is pure grief. It is grief which will be felt fully, without the extra baggage of blame, condemnation, guilt, and shame. Because these are the antics of the ego. Nobody guarantees you a life without suffering. Someone sent me an email about a workshop on joy. And the whole theme of the workshop was, you view everything happening in your life as if it happens for the best. Now, can I tell this lady who has lost her son that it happens for the best? Is that fair? But what can be said? It is a happening which was meant to happen. And the basis of life is pleasure and pain. We are here to look at life, the understanding, and minimize our suffering. As the Buddha said, enlightenment is the end of suffering. He did not say it is joy. So we have to look at that. So there is no promise of happiness, joy, pleasures, which are all dependent on something outside. This is a going within, so that your true happiness, your true joy, is that which you touch upon, which does not depend on anything or anyone, which is ultimately the bliss of peace. Siddharameshwar Maharaj, who was my guru's guru's guru, the guru of Nisargadatta Maharaj, this is what he said on doership. Please believe that there is nothing in our power. God does all and gets all things done. It is God who is behind us and in front of us. Do not cut your separate existence out of the wholeness of life. Drop that nonsense. Whatever is happening is exactly perfect. When you project an imaginary person, it all seems to be unstable. Actually, there is neither high nor low. Both the sides are equal. Everything is fixed perfectly and undisturbed. If the ego is dropped, all existence is perfectly still and nothing is unstable. Ego is dropped means the sense of doership. And I found this very beautiful text by someone Suresh and me know very well, Shirish Murthy. I'll just read 3-4 lines from it. In 1927, Ramana Maharshi composed a 30-verse poem summarizing his teaching. Unlike other writings, he composed this as an integral work without revision. He considered it important enough to prepare in 4 of the major Indian languages. What follows is a portion of an English language interpretation by Ramesh Balsekar's disciple Shirish Murthy. When there is an understanding that God's will prevails all the time and witnessing happens without any one to witness, it is like the stream of ghee or the flow of a river. This is true meditation. By the grace of God or the Master, when one is firmly established in the I am, devoid of the thinking mind, with an impersonal knowing that there is no me to get involved, that is supreme devotion. When through the deep understanding that God is the doer and no one has any control over thoughts and actions, the thinking mind is totally annihilated, then it can be said that the thinking mind in that body-mind organism is dead and only the working mind remains. The thinking mind can be annihilated only when there is total understanding that God's will prevails all the time and the different forms are only puppets having no free will of their own. With this understanding, 3 beautiful things happen. There is no one to feel guilty or proud, to get frustrated, or to have a sense of enmity. Life becomes simple. Simple. It's a promise of a simpler life with lesser drama in your life. Because we are so addicted to drama. It's such fun to blame people, to hate people, to condemn people, including ourselves.
That's the best one. That's the best drama.
Isn't
we
it?
Start blaming ourselves. There's no end to that one. I think because we forgive others, but it's very difficult to forgive ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
We are just not ready to forgive ourselves. Even if we say, oh, it's God's will, but somewhere it's like, you did this, like we don't forgive ourselves
Sure,
so easily.
sure.
And I think we should be more compassionate towards ourselves. And of course, we need to empathize with people, but we need to, be compassionate with our own self also.
Of course.
But we rarely do that. We are our biggest critic, if you notice.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know why.
Because we have been made to think that we have done all this. And we are our biggest critic because it's God's will that we are our biggest critic.
I don't think so, it's God's will.
Everything is God's will.
I think we are projecting that it's God's will. That God doesn't want you to criticize yourself. God wants you to just enjoy life.
How do you know?
I think he came and told me. Tell him I'm going to start enjoying it. You're already here, so might as well enjoy it. As long as I'm here.
Yesterday we met a mother who said her son believes in God but she's an atheist.
Oh.
So I remember what my guru said, that an atheist can only be an atheist if it is God's will. You see, and there is no question of forgiving others. Like you said, it's easy to forgive others. I understand that very well. But the whole concept of forgiveness is based on doership. I forgive you. So I have already separated myself from you. I have become the subject. I have made you the object, and I have passed a judgment, in this case being I forgive you for something you have
done. Wow, that is amazing.
And that is why Jesus, I mean, it's so remarkable that in pain on the cross, the understanding was so total that he didn't say, I forgive them for they know not what they do. He said, Lord, forgive them for they know not what they do. That is the total and complete understanding. Not I forgive them. And my teacher used to say that true forgiveness is forgiving yourself for wanting to forgive someone else for something they are supposed to have done.
Wow, amazing.
Can you say that again?
True forgiveness is forgiving yourself for wanting to forgive someone else for something they are supposed to have done. You see, this whole understanding breaks this shackle of me versus the other. Your whole outlook changes. And it will creep up on you. You may not even realize it. It will be later that people will say, you know, you've changed. Something is different about you. The confirmation comes from outside, and then once that is reflected back, you feel, yes, I am a bit different from what I was earlier, by the grace of the teaching. And yes, we have to be compassionate with ourselves, especially when we criticize ourselves, simply because those qualities were not truly made by us. Our conditioning from day one, who knows, you might have had an abusive parent, a problem in school. Genetically, there might be something. So many factors have gone into creating us from the time we are born. So this critical evaluation and analysis is the thinking mind, wanting it to be different. But the first step is to accept that you did not create the ego with its sense of doership. It is God who created the ego with the sense of doership. And this is what seeing with the third eye is. If we remove all these abstract concepts about the third eye, it simply means not seeing through the eyes of duality. And if your daily living is lived that way, it becomes a living prayer. When you feel that I'm accepting people more and more for who they are, that is seeing through the third eye. It's not something esoteric. I'm accepting myself for who I am. I'm easier on myself, lighter on myself. What is happening? Your being is becoming lighter. Your sense of being is becoming lighter. That is looking through the third eye. That is worshipping the living God. And accepting God's will is looking through the third eye. Not through my eyes. Seeing the illusion for what it is looking through the third eye. Knowing from your own experience that this does not exist in the deep sleep state is looking through the third eye. Knowing how everything in life is transient. Your pleasures come and go, your pains come and go. If you're in a job, if you're in a business, some months are good, some months are not. Some relationships are good, some relationships are not. Knowing that this too shall pass is looking through the third eye. And we already know it. All this is nothing new. What I am saying is nothing new. Living in the now is looking through the third eye. Living in the now means not being embroiled in the thinking, with the thinking mind going round and round. Is living in the now is looking through the third eye. Not thinking about an imaginary future or dead past is looking through the third eye. It's simple, no? Which is nothing but abiding in being. That is what happens more and more. You start abiding in being. Your day is worshipped in beingness. What could be more beautiful than that? And the test is in life. It is not like somebody was telling me about a retreat on Vedanta where you're taken through chapters and then at the end it's a kind of an exam, a test as to how well you have learnt it. But what I am saying is your test is happening every moment because you don't know what the next moment is going to bring. Maharaj said, the expected rarely happens and the unexpected usually does. That is your test. That is the test of the understanding. That is the true test.
Surprise test.
That is the surprise test. Life is giving you surprise tests all the time. That is why my preference was for living teaching. What I mean by that is, by God's grace, I was taken to a lineage or a parampara or stream which talked about daily living. It is later that I started reading the books, and I saw immense value in this approach because we were in the presence of masters who have lived the teaching, lived the understanding. The burden of the thinking mind, the Manomaya Kosha, that can become an even bigger burden if you approach things only from the mind. But from a lived beingness, the picture changes. Now, we all may think that it is through our mind that we are drawn to a teaching like this, but that is not so. It has already happened. It appears like that. As Maharaj would say, the meaning of a word exists even before the word is spoken. The word does not bring the meaning. If I say this means this, that meaning is already there. And as Siddharameshwar says, that if someone abuses you, you take it so personally and you hold on to it. But what about all the grace of knowledge that is showered on you? You forget. the abuse you'll keep in your heart. But we are exposed to so many beautiful teachings and, so much wisdom. But that, once we put the book down, is gone. But then someone tells us something, this guy said this to me
10 years ago.
Amazing. Is this your first time?
Yes.
Where have you come from?
I live at Chembur.
Okay.
I have heard you so many times on YouTube
Uh-huh.
and it is very useful. So I said, let me meet you in person and listen to you.
What's your name?
My name is Sanjay Phatak.
Okay.
I work for Island Office.
Okay.
I am into portfolio management team.
So do you find that in work this teaching helps?
It helps everywhere, sir. More in the relationship and
Exactly.
in profession also.
Right.
The relationships gives you the base.
Right.
Then it's very easy to handle
Yes.
the work.
Absolutely. Because you see your relationships at work first as relationships.
Correct. Correct. That is the base.
My relationship with the other, whoever the other may be. So my guru used to say that those who are in a working environment are at a tremendous advantage because they are placed with people, be it clients, suppliers, juniors, colleagues, bosses, where the whole relationship dynamic comes into place. It's actually a gift, and he was always very keen to know my experience. I would go on the weekend. So what happened at work during the week, he would ask, you know. So it's a beautiful playground of seeing the impact of the teaching. And when the sting of personal doership is removed, your whole perspective changes. I had a rough time 2 weeks ago in my company which does spiritual book publishing. I was mentioning to my wife Devika, one accountant had resigned. We had 2 accountants. And the only one who had assured my auditors that she would be there for a while put in her papers. She said, I have got a better job offer and I am not giving the 30-day notice period, I am leaving in 2 weeks. But don't worry, I'll come on Saturdays for the knowledge transfer. Now, it was a cause for concern because you can't run a small company without an accountant, right? But the teaching comes so much into the forefront because what happens? Rather than saying, how dare you do this, who do you think you are, I'll take you to court, that whole dialogue goes. You see the happening for what it is. You try your best to remedy the situation if there is an option, and if not, there is a deep relaxation that this too had to happen. It may look like one is being complacent, but truly, and then of course, using the logical working mind, we approached a consultant, we said we'll outsource this part of the accounts. All that process followed. This teaching does not mean you sit and become a vegetable. But you see that whole thing of hate and blame and condemnation, that drops. And in relationships, you see at work everything changing. You know, in my guru's time, one millionaire, I forget, I don't know, Suresh, if you remember his name, he had come from the US, Indian businessman. He had a crisis at work. He was not getting along with his partners, and it reached a crisis point. And before the final meeting, he had come to Bombay to meet Ramesh. So Ramesh told him his usual thing of, you know, like we all instruments through whom the divine functions and all. So he went back and he sent a very big donation to Ramesh. So Ramesh, and then he called and Ramesh thought, oh, something really nice must have happened as the outcome of the meeting. And that man told him that things didn't go my way. But I have sent you that donation because I had such peace when I went back and approached the whole situation that I don't blame and condemn my partner for what he did. And I'm really grateful for that perspective on life. And Sai Baba would say nothing can be taken away from you unless it has to be taken away from you. So why worry? And Maharaj would say it was not yours in the first place, so why worry? The Jnani says that when he has to lose money, it's like money being removed from one pocket and going into another pocket, both of which are his. That's good.
One more effect, I stop blaming myself.
Yes.
I think that is the single most biggest advantage.
Yes. And others may not like that.
So that game is stopped.
Absolutely.
Ping pong match is stopped.
Absolutely.
It helps to improve the team spirit also in the office.
Yes.
Once you are not into, if I am not blaming myself, I won't blame you.
Yes.
That
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That helps a lot.
Absolutely.
But that can be scary also. People can just be lazy, violent, whatever, and say, well, I'm not doing it.
This is the age-old issue which was placed before Ramesh, that if I don't do anything, why would I? I mean, I can sit back in bed and not do anything. And Ramesh would say, but you'll have to get up to go to the toilet, right? So that is the ego's defense mechanism which comes up, What this teaching points to is you are operating based on your nature. Some people can do the work of 10 people. I know people like that. They have a lot of rajas, a lot of activity. How? God made them that way. They won't be able to sit still. Someone with immense sattva, you might feel he is too comfortable, he is too calm, peaceful. What good is he going to do at work? But his mere presence may be the good he is doing. So everyone is shaped a particular way, and you have to literally be comfortable in your own skin. In the temporary skin. And what about you, sir?
My first time.
And you're familiar with the teachings and
I've read some things,
uh-huh.
tried some things out. That's about it.
And you?
I'm from Neroli. Basically, I'm Ramana's father.
Ramana Maharshi. आप पहले आए हो इधर?
No, this is
First time? Eckhart had written in The Power of Now about the birds, they don't ask each other what time is it.
They just know.
But being in the body is a big gift. Because the animal cannot separate being from experience. The human being can. If something is happening to you which you don't like, something knows it's happening to you, right? Which is apart from the experience. That is what a human being has been gifted.
It's
you know that you're facing pleasures and pains, right? Something knows. For anything to happen and for you to know it, there's obviously something prior to the happening.
Give me an example.
Supposing you are in a hospital and you lose your memory, right? Your memory is wiped out, so you don't know your past, you don't know who your parents are, you don't know who your friends are, right? But what do you know when you are lying on that hospital bed? You know that you are. There's a beingness.
Yeah.
There's a being, I am. Right? And your life's experiences take place on that screen. Whatever it is you know, there is one step behind that, which is the witness of that which you know. I am sad. Something knows something is sad, right? I am happy. What is that? That is the being. So when awareness grows, and it really doesn't grow because awareness is all there is, but when you stop looking from the dualistic thinking mind, what is happening is, to use the words, awareness is growing. That is called witnessing. You become a witness more and more to the events that happen in your life, instead of a knee-jerk reaction. Like you said, that tennis match is no longer played. Why? Because one is witnessing more and more. That is the awareness. That is the human being. That is the very common example used about going to the cinema hall and you know fully well that you are watching a movie. You know it fully well. So what about your movie of life?
And you feel much lighter when you look at things this way, Like there's a baggage taken away from you, I feel. When you start witnessing things.
Absolutely. As Ramesh in his earlier days would say, consciousness in action is understanding, and understanding in action is witnessing. Witnessing more and more, witnessing, which happens when the sense of doership starts eroding. That is what being in the I am is. Being in the I am means if your thinking mind doesn't gallop away with everything like it usually does, you are being in the I am, human being. And that becomes a solid mass, a solid ground of being. And that is the light of peace which shines through, which is then deep sleep. Deep sleep is such a gift because you do know that you had deep sleep. You just have to question as to who knows that I slept well. The person in the waking state obviously did not exist, but yet you say, I slept well. So there had to be something common between the deep sleep state and the waking state to know I slept well. The me was not there in deep sleep. So who knows I slept well? The peace of deep sleep is such a great pointer to this.
you're sleeping, but still your mind is so active, like, it still wants to play a story, why? Why do we get dreams? Like, if I'm sleeping, I'm not even there, like, you will be somewhere in another country, or while you're there, you're nowhere there. So why does it happen?
Why not?
I mean, it can happen, it's okay, but why do we dream? Like, what is there? What is so, like, the ego wants to, like, constantly be somewhere else other than where it is?
Which is where?
On your bed.
No, the ego is not on the bed. The ego is not on the bed. See, the three states, which are the deep sleep state, the dreaming state, and the waking state, the bedrock of all three is consciousness. Impersonal in the deep sleep state because you don't know that you exist, and identified in the dreaming and waking state. But even the dreaming state is one step closer to the peace, because in the dreaming state you do not exercise the kind of free will you can in the waking state.
Is there a free will in the waking state? I don't think so.
If you know that and that is your understanding, then the riddle is solved. Yet you have to act as if you have free will. Free will is the mechanism of functioning in daily living.
But if I'm not the doer, who has the free will? Like, where is the free will if I'm not?
Because you are the me in the waking state. You will have to function in life as if you have free will, knowing that you don't.
Wow. So simple.
Isn't it?
I was reading this chapter on the 2611 incident of Britain. I'm just halfway through that chapter, but somewhere you summarized it, that it's the same consciousness that was chanting the mantra for protection, and the same consciousness was functioning to kill in the name of the God.
Yes.
Now, while it's understood that it's the same consciousness functioning different ways, can't I harbor hatred to that mind-body organism that did whatever it did?
Hatred may arise. You cannot harbor hatred. Harboring hatred is a lack of understanding. You see, I have seen a video where they are training 5-year-old children to hold machine guns somewhere in the Far East. Now that boy is being conditioned from that age, right? And let's say he commits a heinous act as he grows up. Because that has been his worldview, that has been his upbringing. So with the understanding, hatred may arise. How could he do this? But you will not harbor hatred. There is a very big difference in that. When you realize, as Siddharameshwar said, if anyone hates you or criticizes you, please prostrate at their feet, because they are doing you a very big favor. They are doing you a very big favor.
By hating you.
Yes. What's the point if everyone loves you? The true growth is to know that the divine functions through everyone. That is true growth. You may not like it. That is worshipping the living consciousness. What is the point? Otherwise, I come home and I do my puja to my Krishna and my Shiva and whatever. But my relationships I have, like, these people hate me, these people love me. I am going to be with the ones who love me. I am not going to be the ones who hate me. With understanding that everyone is an instrument of the divine, I am at peace. I may not like some people how God has made them, because that's not my preference. But I don't hate anyone. And more so, I start seeing everyone with a kind of an even vision. My preferences, the line between them starts dissolving. I see everyone as an aspect of the divine. And it's really beautiful because, when you start accepting people for how God made them, you don't want them to be any other way. This incessant need to want people to change drops. You should be more like this, you should be more like that, why you like this, why you like that. That need falls. God knows best. He doesn't need you to shape the world. And what happens? The incessant need to shape yourself drops. The inner critic drops. Peace of mind. What about you? What brings you here? How old are you?
I'm 24.
Uh-huh.
So I have attended one session of yours in August.
Okay.
And I was stuck with my exams, so I couldn't come. But I really liked that session, so I
Yeah.
came.
But what pulls you to such a teaching?
It's normally, like when we start living our normal life, once I go out of this place, so at least for few days that knowledge stays with me.
And then when someone abuses you, it's gone.
No, so I like if you start attending such sessions, say, so that knowledge never goes.
Yes.
So sometimes when I need such kind of knowledge, I read books.
Yes.
But I try to keep myself towards like so that my life is balanced. Like I feel good
Of course.
because these things, if you implement in your life actually goes very smooth.
Of course. Absolutely. And at a young age, it's even more beneficial.
Yeah.
When my guru was in hospital at the age of 90, he gifted his book to the doctor, and the doctor said, I don't need this now. When I retire, I'll need it. And he said, but you're 59 years old. See? Whereas this is your blueprint for living. Can you imagine, on a slightly different note, there is a book we publish. The whole approach is different, but I'm raising it as a point to note. This is a man who, through hypnosis, he had written a book. He took 10 cases of extreme events and he regressed these 10 people to what he calls the pre-life stage. He took someone who was an AIDS victim. He took someone who was involved in a bombing and very extreme scenarios. He wrote a book called Your Soul's Plan. Now, according to his understanding, in all the 10 cases, in each and every case, he has regressed these personalities to a pre-life stage where they have planned out everything in their lives, including that incident. Now, how different is this from Advaita in the sense that everything is predetermined? And in one of the stories, there's a kind of council. He talks about a council of elders or something, and they're mapping someone's journey of life, the coming life. And he has a life of a lot of challenges with people. And in that state, the ones who love him the most say, we'll take on this role of you hating us because we love you so much. we'll play that role in your life so that you can grow from the experience.
Which book is this?
Your soul's plan. It's a very different perspective from Advaita and non-duality, but my point being that before you judge and hate, consider this other possibility. As Siddharameshwar says, that the ones who are pushing your buttons the most, he's not used those words, are the ones who are doing you the biggest favor. They are the ones who are making you look within. Being in this business of spiritual publishing has really made me meet such varied people who have had very varied experiences in life, different perspectives. What I was drawn to the most was Advaita, non-duality, and the stream of Nisargadatta Maharaj, Ramesh, because it was absolutely empty of image. It was pure being. Ramana Maharshi's books, it's what resonates with me deeply. And then when I see as a publisher other perspectives which confirm this understanding, like one lady who wrote to us, she had lost her son in an accident in Pune. A lot of grief followed and all that. But she said, so she was writing a small book on it, that the son came to the parents after his death and said, "Mummy, you will not believe the degree of precision which was involved in my passing away in the accident." And in his name now, they have opened an orphanage in Pune to look after children who are without parents. But he said the same thing. If this is one line of belief to be followed about the afterlife, he told his parents that the time I was to leave the house was, I can see now that I am on the other side, was the play of the divine. It happened because it had to happen, and do not worry about me. And they were so happy, that's what gave them relief, that they have started this orphanage with love and happiness. And acceptance of God's will means a loss of control. You realize that the higher power, the higher force is precisely the way it is, looking after everyone the way they are meant to be looked after. You do not carry this weight on your shoulders anymore. Life becomes lighter. And what does life becomes lighter mean? I mean, not lighter in terms of not carrying baggage. I mean, it becomes lighter in terms of there's more light. There's more light because you are permeated in consciousness, which is being, not becoming, or not had been. Which is what is. You are more and more in the what is. And what starts happening? You start letting go. It's all about letting go. This one said this, chalo, darling. This one, that. This happened, let it go. This happened in my past, let it go. Let it go. That is the light of consciousness. Eventually it's going to be let go of when we are dead, so let it go now. So much easier, no? So beautiful. And then love, which is not a dualistic love. Love is being, presence. That starts shining.
My question is related to, the gods and goddesses different traditions have. Egypt had, India had. So it's signifying ultimately the presence through all these different forms. So my question is that what's the relevance of it today, considering like now I am, for example, I try to see divine in everything, every form. And so, my question is that why was that made in the first place? Maybe it's a very intellectual question, but
No, but it's a very valid question simply because we are in the world of form, so it is much easier for us to relate to a form of God, and that is why these forms were created to be worshipped, which is the bhakti tradition. The Advaita tradition is worshipping the formless God, formless consciousness. So there will be those drawn to bhakti and those drawn to Advaita. Jnana yoga, bhakti yoga. So in one, it is a relationship between me and God, and the other is the I am, the formless consciousness, the beingness is God. Because some people find it far easier to relate to a form of God. But all these questions are fine as long as your sincerity and earnestness is on one thing: peace of mind. Because there is no end to the questions which the mind can raise. But if you hold on to that one thing, that will be what will gift you that peace. Because the mind is made to ask questions.
temples and churches were places where people used to pray, and so the energies were like very pure, and people used to get healed when they used to go to. Originally, now I don't know. Like I'm sure the energies are still there in this place.
Of course, there's a whole science behind building temples and cathedrals, which we don't know anything about. For example, the bell of the temple or the cathedral, the big one, actually represents the Sahasrar Chakra. Now, the common man does not know that, right? So, the rishis developed symbols which he could relate to. He says, Ghanti bajana hai to wake up God. Chalo, theek hai. But there's a whole science in this. Nothing can be negated. But we are talking about living in daily life, through relationships, through what happens in our life, witnessing, through which peace of mind, I cannot even say is attained, because peace is always there. We are always walking away from it. When you stop walking away, the peace is there. You're not acquiring peace. Isn't that a joke? There's nothing to be acquired. This is the whole game of stripping away. Because when everything is stripped away, there's nobody left to acquire the peace. The peace is all that shines through. You cannot say, I am at peace, because when peace is there, there is no I am at peace. That is true peace, because I am at peace means at another time I am not at peace. True peace is the absence of that one who thinks he is at peace.
Gone to a temple with my kids about 7-8 years ago in the south. In the south, when you go to the temple, there's a big commotion near the sanctum. People will crowd, they'll all be like pushing each other to see what's happening inside. My kids got a bit upset. They were like 5 and 7. And I used to have the same thought when I was a kid going to the temple, that it never made sense to me, that whole jostling inside over there. Then we went and sat outside, and the South Indian temples are incredibly beautiful. Some of them are very, very old. So the whole architecture, there'll be a courtyard around where people can sit, and it's just, so we sat outside for some time before we left. Then when we were driving, my daughter spoke about, that these temples, why do we keep going here? So I said, how did you like the sitting outside? She said it was very good. I said, that's the temple. You're assuming this is the thing, but that's the real temple. And so even for a child, nobody can miss it. Everybody knows it, but we are all trained to think that,
Correct.
this is it. So
Yeah. We are all trained to be away from the now. Incessant.
Yeah. Anywhere but here.
Anywhere but here. That's our life's experience, no? That's a nice title for a book. Anywhere but here. But I'll end on one note. I mean, it's not comparing. I thought of it when I was in France, no? We had gone to a city which was connected with Joan of Arc. So then there was a cathedral there. So I told my friend, he is French, I said, I would love to go into that cathedral, but is it going to be crowded? So he said, no, this is not like India. Our places are very orderly and neat and all. So I said, chalo. And you have a huge door in the front, right? You have to open it, and then there's a side door and you go in. So we just went without looking at anything, talking to anyone, we went. And forget people, it was empty, means there was not one person. So I was flabbergasted. I said, my God, let's sit here for some time in this peace. And we walked down, up and down, a huge thing it was. Nobody in sight, and I was like, wow, yeah, I was so happy. So then we sat down for a good 15 minutes. Nobody came in this massive cathedral where that whole town had tourists, and I thought this is really something. I was very impressed. So then I told my friend, chalo, let's leave. So when we got out, we opened the door, and there was a line of tourists who were there like this, looking at us like that. So I said, what's happened, Then I turned around and I saw the timings were written, and it was still not time to enter the cathedral.
Good one.
We just ran from there. God's will.
Yes.
I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
You were meant to enjoy.
It was meant to be. Ignorance is bliss, no? Let's live our lives like that. It's meant to be. It's meant to be. If anything happens which you don't like, it's meant to be. Yaar. Chhod do. Take the necessary steps you need to take. But if it was not meant to be, it would not be. And then you are going to be living in that cathedral all the time, the cathedral of being. You cannot step out of it. Can you picture it right now? You're in the cathedral of being.